Hey, it's the Blazor Puzzle, episode 11. I'm Carl Franklin from AppPhoenix, and that's Jeff Fritz from Microsoft. Hey, Jeff.
How do? How's it going there, Carl?
It's going good. I think we might have thrown a real honker at the viewers last week.
It had a trick in there, didn't it?
It was kind of tricky. Yeah, all right. Well, let's roll into it and get started. All right, so simply we turned the counter into a component from a page. You took out the page directive, right?
Yep.
And we added this new component label, which has the content current count at current count. And the label is a content that just shows the child content. And your challenge, if I remember correctly, was to prevent it from being rendered multiple times.
Yeah.
You want it to render once, and then that's it.
Right. And when we look at this, it's right. We've got text that we're passing into this component, but for some reason, every time we click that button, it re-renders that component. Why is it rendering the component? And what can we do to reduce that rendering? That's work the browser has to do.
Yeah. Well, it renders because this whole page renders anytime something changes, right? And because the counter re-renders, all the child components re-render, and that's expected behavior. But you specifically said, how can we stop it from rendering all the time?
Yep. Now, there is a shortcut here that gets the job done, but wasn't exactly what we were looking for. You can certainly put an if statement on that first parameter that's coming in and say, if it's the first time, let this process. Otherwise, return.
Right, but that doesn't prevent it from rendering. It only stops the whatever we're going to do when it renders. It's still going to render.
Yep. The other events still kick off and happen in there. But there is a method that we can override called should render.
There it is right there. Now, when you override should render, you can return true or false, depending on the situation, whether or not you want it to render.
Nothing to it.
And this is great because you have control. You know, this time I want to sit it out. You know, maybe you only want to render once every 5 seconds or something like that, or based on some data.
It's a label. You shouldn't be re-rendering this. So
well, it may or may not, but let's say in this case it should be because the counter is changing. But let's say you pull some data from a database and you put that in there. You just want to render it once because it's going to be static, right?
Yep.
You don't want it to render all the time. So let's look at this. So it did rendered once. Current count is 10. But when I click, it's not re-rendering.
Because it's not re-rendering.
Because we told it not to. Now, we, as Jeff said, we had a lot of people write in with the whole putting some, Booleans, checking that first and only doing what we want to do, but it doesn't really prevent it from rendering. But we're going to give it to somebody anyway. We're going to give the mug and shirt. So the winner this week is, drumroll please, Francesco Piga from Italy.
Hey, there we go. Congratulations to you.
Oh, and by the way, last week, remember I said the winner was Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
Well, Dan's last name is Martin, and he's from Lancashire in the UK.
Ah, very cool.
Dan Martin. So he got his stuff. And we're going to be sending Francesco one of these, a coveted Blazor Puzzle mug, and one of these, a newly coveted Blazor Puzzle t-shirt.
Fantastic.
Congratulations, Francesco. And now we want to get on to the next puzzle, puzzle number 11. Okay, so this is an example of using a service to share state between components. It's injected into this page and also into a toolbar component, which subscribes to the property changed event. When the event is raised, the toolbar calls state has changed to re-render, and this should be a familiar pattern to people, but the challenge is there a better, more Blazory way to achieve this? All right, so let's go through it. I've got AppState, which we're used to coding this kind of thing, implement INotifyPropertyChanged.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And when we do that, we have a property changed event handler, which we can then invoke by calling this onPropertyChanged. And so right here in the property, the message property, I have a regular getter that returns our private field, but in the setter, I'm calling onPropertyChanged. So it's all set up. Anytime anybody changes the message property, it'll fire onPropertyChanged, and then whoever's listening to that can handle the event and blah, 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 Bob's your uncle. So I injected this into the app using builder services add scope. Well, I registered, not injected. I registered it using a scoped service, AppState right there. Now I created a toolbar component, and the toolbar injects AppState, implements iDisposable using system component model, and in my onInitialized, I'm handling the event. I'm hooking that event, and in dispose, I'm unhooking the event. And when the property changes, doesn't matter what the property is, I'm going to call state has changed. And also, by the way, I'm going to show the message right there.
As a WPF developer, this looks very familiar to me.
Absolutely. So then in index, right, I'm also injecting AppState. And I have an input here that's bound to the message on input, which means every time I type a new character, it's going to change the binding, which will set the message property, and then the whole thing fires off. All right, let's just see.
And the reason to bind to the on input instead of the default on change is you have to wait until it's completed, till you leave the input box before it'll actually take that binding.
Yeah, the event that triggers the event is a blur, or, on change it is. But it's essentially blur, right?
Yep.
All right, so here we go. I got my toolbar up here. I start typing down here. Hey, this is cool. And everything works, and that's fine. But the challenge is there a better way to do this without using INotifyPropertyChanged, a more Blazory way to do it?
You've got a little bit more code in there. While it works, you've got a little bit more code in there that we could slim that down a little bit and
yes,
avoid stepping into a possible memory leak, huh?
That's right. We won't have to use well, I don't want to give it away too much. Shh. Hey. All right. So there you go. And if you think you know the answer, do not share on social media, but instead send an email to us at BlazorPuzzle@appvnext.com, and we will read all of them and pick a winner from all of the right answers, and that winner will get a Blazor Puzzle mug and a Blazor Puzzle t-shirt.
All right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say, Jeff?
We are 2 weeks from the release of .NET 8 and .NET Conf.
Can't wait.
I'm excited because we've got a whole new batch of puzzles we can start talking about.
We sure do.
With that release.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Stay tuned. Tell your friends, tell your families, tell your pets. Sign up and subscribe to the Blazor Puzzle. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My dog loves coding in Blazor.
Oh, yeah.
You should see him.
Yep. His coding is a little rough, but his bark is worse than his bite. Okay, never mind. We'll see you next time on the Blazor Puzzle. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out BlazorTrain.com and the .NETShow.com for more great content.